So as you can see, I'm Ben. Also, I've got my Twitter handle for when Twitter still exists, which I think it still does, last I checked. So I haven't timed these, but there's like 20 slides, so roughly a minute a slide, and I'll run massively under. So I'll just start at the beginning. So I was a chemistry student, playing a lot of video games. I was working on new treatments for African sleeping sickness, and instead I found out that Skyrim was really good, and so was Minecraft. So I got through my bachelor's, got into the master's year, started my project, and it was really difficult. And then I just stopped going to uni and started playing a bunch of video games, and it was great. Love Minecraft especially. So I figured out that Minecraft actually, you can mod it. So that was what I started with. I started just tweaking a couple of values here and there. And then after a wee bit, I was like, oh, wait, I can program now, I guess. So I started making more things and more things. And I think by the end of it, I'd made like 150 different things, especially on Bucket, which was essentially a server-side modding framework, which meant that anyone could connect to your server without having to install a mod themselves, which was a pretty powerful thing to have, which then led through various means. That logo at the bottom is actually a legendary craft server, which was run by a couple of Mexican guys who I'm pretty sure were in the cartel. It was very sketchy, and the payment was through PayPal exclusively, back before they verified things. So that was an interesting time. So on that server, they'd partnered with a bunch of Minecraft YouTubers, one of whom was called Hytale, who did Redstone adventure maps pretty much exclusively. So we were working together in 2011, and he was like, hey, these guys are pretty sketchy. What if we just made our own Minecraft server? And I was like, yeah, but they're paying me. And so he paid me basically all the money he had left for his YouTube channel, which was about $1,000. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And so I sat and for 6 months basically just made like a backend framework database server system for the Hypixel Minecraft server, which then launched in 2012, and this is the launch trailer, which I will play for you now. It is a little bit cringe because it's 2000. Oh no, never mind. 2012 Minecraft content. And the speakers are coming through here. I should have probably said there's audio. It's pretty loud now. So originally it was going to be like a host for the adventure maps, but we did these little mini games in between the adventure maps, and the mini games became much more popular than the adventure maps, to the point that we just stopped doing adventure maps and just did exclusively mini games. So obviously the highlight of the adventure co-op maps there, but it didn't happen, and all of it became Skywars and Bedwars, quite a lot. So the game we started with obviously was turned that from Redstone to running it programmatically, so the game mode would automate, so players would move in and get moved back out into another game, and we found people would just keep retaining it in case it lived forever. And then the player count just kept growing and growing through the years. So we got to 40,000 players online, all in the one Minecraft server, 60,000, 90,000, and then by the end of it, I think we peaked out at about 155,000 players on a Minecraft server, which is a little bit mental for, like, you're challenging the online player count of Steam games at that point on a third-party Minecraft server. But it was going pretty well. And obviously there was some sketchier monetization, a little bit of pay to win, where you could skip ahead and upgrade your kits to the max level for a fee. And then Microsoft bought Mojang, and they brought in a whole bunch of rules that were designed to stop more predatory servers, but also ended up putting a lot of the monetization strategies that were in place away. And as part of that, all of the transactions on Hypixel moved to purely cosmetic and non-gameplay based. And the server could still keep going and like pay for itself, but obviously the income dropped quite dramatically at that point, and it was a bit sketchy. So there was a small team of like 3 or 4 people who started, what if we just made our own game instead? It was kind of using all the things that we liked and loved about Minecraft, but instead of it being in Minecraft, it being its own thing. So that then became Hytale, which the trailer dropped for in 2018, which is a wee while ago. But I'll play that for you now, for those of you who haven't seen it, and just talk over points that I think are really cool. The music, for one. So we wanted to go like slightly higher fidelity, a little more RPG inspired. So that launched on YouTube in 2018, and I think to date it's got like 40 million views. So it kind of went a little bit viral, which we weren't anticipating. The idea was to do more of initially a Minecraft style launch strategy where you drop an alpha, you drop a beta, and then see where things go from there. But we are now 100 strong, thanks to Riot Games, who purchased the whole of Hytale after seeing the strength of the trailer and a lot of the philosophical similarities between how they came into being back in the day with League of Legends and the things we're trying to do with Hytale versus Minecraft. And so they're supporting the development of the game to date. And that's obviously our wee team photo from the last, because we try and do at least one meetup globally annually. So tech design is myself, and then the 2 Aarons, because you need 2 Aarons in every team. And then we've got Dan, Antonio, and Paris, who is a new intern. That's a recent thing through Northern Ireland Screen, and actually her portfolio is really cool. So I put some of that in the next slides. But that's also just a cool picture from our last meetup in 2023, where I was like, what if we all went go-karting? So we all went go-karting, and I got second place, which I'm a little salty about, but...
Who got first?
Not even anyone on the team. One of the guys from the office snuck along with us, because he was like, that sounds great. And then he won, and I'm like, okay, fine. So I'm the fastest tech designer. Yeah, so what do we do? So tech design is kind of, I would put it exactly in the middle of gameplay engineering and game design, where you're using like strong instincts and game design skills to inform gameplay, and also using your technical knowledge to communicate with core design, using your design knowledge to communicate with engineering, and generally making a better game. I was chatting out there earlier about the question of like, who actually takes the thing and makes the blueprint? The answer is tech design, because they'll understand both sides of the picture, both the design and the engineering side, and can use that knowledge to make a better solution than just each one on its own. So it's a relatively new industry role, but I found out about it and I was like, that sounds great. So essentially, yeah, started doing it. And then it got to the point where it was going really good. So they were like, hey, you should hire a team to do that as well. So that's why we ended up with the bunch of us there. And it's still going really good. So the reason the game's not out yet is because when Riot purchased, they decided that we should target multi-platform. So it was in Java, and as you know, Java does not run on consoles. So Minecraft has had the similar problem where they've now got Bedrock and Java. So we've had to restart and all learn C++, which is, takes us a little bit of time. But yeah, so I would consider tech design almost first-party modders, or modder zero, as we call ourselves. So we're using the same tools that we are going to give to the creators when we ship to make their own gameplay within the game, to make the game itself. And we're really trying to stick hard to that ethos of like, if we're exposing something, it needs to be something that we're not just doing for ourselves, but is for everyone to use. And so this is Paris, who's the new intern, who does a bunch of like sound design, composition, and game dev, and just does a bunch of game jams. But it's just a little bit of like game feel stuff. So this was just a portfolio project for her uni, but I thought it was great, so I put it in here. And it kind of captures the spirit of what I think tech design is, where you're taking the whole of everything and pulling it together. So that's obviously done in Unreal, which, you kind of need a little bit of technical knowledge to use Unreal effectively. But similarly, the game design's all from her side, and putting the two together really drives like a cool feeling game. So yeah, you would do obviously a bit of scripting with tech design, and you could do some blueprints, hook up all of the VFX, and whether you do those yourself or pull those from an artist, it's very varied, the stuff you get up to, which suits me perfectly. I would get bored doing just one thing all the time. So it's kind of a career design for me. So here I've just put in, I don't even remember why I put this in. Oh yeah, the audio at the end, and how just little steps like that can make a game feel just a little bit cooler. So if you think about, you've got the brief, implement the sword. So you've got to think about all the different parts of that and how you pull them together. So you'll get your model and textures from art, you'll get your animations from animation. You've got to think about the attack and cooldown logic, and also how you would interface with the game systems themselves to make that. Sound effect hooks, other hooks. So tying all those things together and making it actually function good and feel good in the one place, in the one discipline, is kind of a really useful thing about tech design, because you can just take all of these different parts and then work with the teams and understand each bit, and then pull it into here's an example of how you would do it. Obviously, this is all in JSON, kind of representative of the Minecraft JSON format, which is how they do stuff. But you can see there you've got the model, texture pulled in, and then a script for the attack, and then obviously you'd write the script, put in your timings, charge sounds, and that would all happen just as part of tech design work. So yeah, kind of data-driven systems, code, scripting, all falls under that. I really like nodes. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I think nodes are great. Code is also great, especially when you're getting really detailed, or you've got a big task. But in terms of just knocking something together, nodes are wonderful. Talk to me about nodes anytime you want. So I've just drawn like a couple of parallels here between indie developers and tech designers, because I think there's a lot of similarities. And I think also, if you're looking to get more into the gaming industry, like AA, AAA as an indie developer, tech designer is potentially a good career target, because you've got a lot of really wide and varied skills that aren't necessarily accounted for in traditional roles. So obviously, both of them, strong understanding of game design and programming. I mean, not necessarily, obviously, but if you're like a one-man team or like a two-man team, chances are you're doing a little bit of everything. And then obviously with the tech designer, you might not program every day, but even understanding how the code works means you're going to be building better blueprints, better systems, better implementations of the gameplay. And then, I don't know why I put that meme at the bottom. Or is it a meme? Oh yeah, it's a Baldur's Gate 3 reference. It's like a paraphrase of Raphael. I guess I was playing a lot of Baldur's Gate 3 when I made these slides. So thank you. I realized that was much quicker than I intended, but I can do a Q&A, and that should fill some time. If anyone has any questions. Yes, hello.
When you started on Hytale, how did you find the transition from working on like a server where you were limited with like the Minecraft game to then working on a new project like Hytale?
Honestly, kind of wonderful. Like the ability to be like, oh hey, what if we could change everyone on the server's model into like a different model, and then be like either implement a prototype yourself or like work with engineering to get it in the game and like shippable. It's just great. Like imagine all of the things you wish you could add to Minecraft and then just being able to do them. Yeah. Hi.
I used to play Hypixel like every day, like when I was younger. So it was kind of cool because it was like the most popular server in Minecraft. Like, how did you guys get that amount of exposure for the server at that time?
So that was kind of wild. It was a lot of YouTube-driven stuff, but it was almost like organic relationships with the YouTubers. So there was never any paid stuff. It was more they needed content and we wanted players, so we would make a game and then they would play it, and it kind of became this natural cycle. We also did a lot of in-person events, so we would like work with they were multiplayer at the time. We would put like 8 or 16 PCs together, fly out a server box, and then run like in-person Minecraft tournaments on our game modes there. So that was another cool way. And then obviously like picking that up on socials makes people go like, oh, that's really cool. Hi.
Yeah, you spoke about tech designer very much like it sounded as if you guys do not have game designers, or is that...
Oh, we do have game designers, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just they also can't program. And so sometimes the game designer's like, oh, I want to do this thing, and sometimes it doesn't necessarily fit into the engine. So you've got to be like, yeah, but what if you did this thing that's similar and achieves the same result and actually fits in the engine? And so like finding those compromises faster is a really powerful thing to have.
Talk to me about nodes. What is your ratio, you said, between how much you're using nodes versus how much you're coding?
It really depends what I'm working on. The world gen system is entirely nodes now. Yeah. So that's 100% nodes. I mean, one of my goals for this year is to get combat nodes as well, rather than scripted, but we'll see how that goes. Hi.
You mentioned swapping to having to learn C++ when Brad acquired you.
Yes.
What does that look like when it's a multi-million-dollar company that's saying like, hey, learn C++?
Well, it was our decision. They were just like, multi-platform, please. So there was a whole bunch of solutions looked at, and custom engine in C++ is the one that's most optimal, because voxel rendering is really expensive unless you optimize the engine for it specifically. And so C++ was the result.
Well, I guess I'm asking like what, just purely the learning process.
Oh, the learning process? I mean, engineering had like a whole slew of like workshops and training. Mine was more, why don't we make a game in C++ and that'll teach us C++. So I've actually got like a one-page document that's like, here's all the libs I would use to make a game, and then we just all worked off that. I can share that with you if you want. Yeah. I don't know, I'll post it in the Discord.
So you said you made a game, is that game also out available? Or
No. I made a snake clone. a very bad Snake clone.
I'd still like to see it.
But I mean, the source code's on GitHub. You still have to compile it, but hi, yeah.
So you mentioned like bringing together all of the sorts of disciplines in designing an element of the game. How often do you find yourself like writing custom tools to sort of help merge these different disciplines together into the game?
I mean, part of what we're shipping is like that
Right.
tool, and then that's going to be available for everyone. So that's the goal. I don't know if you saw at the end of the video, there's like a quick screenshot of it with like the, I might be able to flick back to it. I'll mute this just a sec. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that, but there's like models and then different points of the model, as well as an animation track, as well as like shading and texture, and then attachments down the bottom right. And so that's kind of, I mean, it's obviously a little more polished now, but that's kind of a very early view of like a universal tool for bringing all these things together. Anyone else? Or? Hi.
So, when you started working on Hytale, of course, for like the more general audience, when they see the trailer of Hytale, they can tell it's taken a lot of influence from Minecraft. And I know that you've mentioned like you are going to be upgrading the combat and adding new bosses. But what are like kind of the main steps that your company is taking to make sure that when people see this game, they're not just thinking Minecraft 2, but they see it as more its own like game that you guys are making?
I mean, that is a marketing question, which I actually don't have the answers to. I'm very much focused on the making of the thing. Good question, though.
A funny question, because it's a bit of a history. Hyper was the first server on the ranking, and I was playing Meatcraft, which was the second one.
Yep.
We had a peak of like 40,000 when you had 100. Did they give up on the server and join your team?
No, I don't think so. I think,
They closed and you spiked like 200.
yeah. I think just all the players went over. Yeah, some of the stuff we had to do to support that many players is wild. There was like a layer 3 proxy that had to be written because all of Minecraft traffic is encrypted. So you then had to decrypt it in order to like funnel it to a different server in order to accomplish moving players between servers on the back end because there was no transfer packet. Absolutely wild. I think they're adding one in the next release like 10 years later.
It's funny that you mentioned that Microsoft limited you with giving players abilities with transactions, but they actually made all these transactions themselves, because if you want a specific server, you have to pay Microsoft. Like, that's kind of bullcrap.
It's okay, we're making our own game.
Well, you're the lucky one to have your own game now, but...
Once we release, you can play it too, don't worry.
Hi. When did you going to release?
When it's done. Alrighty, I think 25 minutes is a good count. That's basically 30. Yeah, thanks everyone.